Hey, what is up everyone? Tyler Ramsbey here, back with another video. And in this video, we're going to do some more hands-on hacking. We're going to hack a Windows machine. Specifically, we're going to hack the bastard box on HackTheBox. But hey, before we do that, let me give you just a quick commercial. Maybe not a commercial, more of a thing I want to invite you to join. So in last October, me and a friend started a group to hold one another accountable. And we met every single week over Zoom, and we just answered really two questions. Number one, what did you learn this past week? And number two, what are your learning goals for this week? And then we opened that group up to anyone who wanted to join us to grow in their careers. And we ended up growing that group to the point that it got too large for just a regular Facebook chat. So one person from the group created a Discord server to hold some of that content. And it's really in the beginning stages of it, and we want you to help make it awesome. So let me just share my screen, and I'll show you what this Discord server looks like. We have a few main channels here. We have the general channel. You can see I'm spamming myself right here that I'm creating new content. I'll be posting a walkthrough. We have weekly goals, and that's just what I told you. It's a place to post what you're working on. And there's something powerful about written goals, knowing that people are going to hold you accountable to them. We got hacking labs. That's if you want to post anything about try hack me, hack the box, VulnHub, whatever you want to post about. We got Python. Now, there's many different programming languages, but if you're interested in cybersecurity, ethical hacking, Python is like the #1 language, in my opinion, that you can learn. We have meeting plans. So right now we meet every Monday night at 8 p.m. Central Time to hold one another accountable, to share what we're learning, to encourage one another, and of course off topic. But hey, I'm going to post an invite to this Discord in the description of this video, and truly I'd be honored to have you join us in this community. We want to learn from you. Hopefully you can learn from us, and hopefully together we can just continue to grow in our careers. But hey, let's jump into the box for today. So if you want to follow along, go ahead and boot up Kali Linux. And if you have a HackTheBox account, go to HackTheBox, start the bastard machine. Because it is a Windows machine, it does take a few minutes to load. So you can pause the video and wait until your machine is loaded. And let's just get connected to the OpenVPN for HackTheBox. Mine is in my download folder. We'll make this large and we'll go OpenVPN lab. And let's go ahead and get connected. We'll just rename this a VPN. And we'll rename this terminal. Switch user to root. Okay, and now the first thing I always do is add the IP to my Etsy host file. Just makes the rest of our job easier. So let's go ahead and add that IP. We'll go gedit Etsy hosts, and we'll get it pulled up. I already copied the IP, at least I think I did, and for the bastard box is 10.10.10.9, and we'll just call it bastard.hackthebox, just so we keep it straight. And the reason I do that is you don't have to do this. You can type in the IP every time, but when I do that, I have to keep checking HackTheBox to figure out the IP, or I type it wrong. So let's just make sure we have connection. And we do. We can ping, I should say. Perfect. So let's open a new tab. Let's start with a standard nmap scan. And nmap is network map. Is how you scan for open ports to see what our initial attack vector is going to be. And the thing that I do is my first nmap scan, I don't throw any special scripts at it. I just try to scan every port on the IP. And then once I figure out what ports are open, then I attack those specific ports. You can use a tool like Auto Recon to do that automatically for you. I just do it manually. Truly, you can do it either way. So you do nmap, and then we do -p-. That means scans all the ports. So if you just do a regular nmap scan, it just scans the most common ports. But often in a real world situation or in a capture the flag, they'll have services on non-common ports that you'll miss if you don't scan all the ports. So nmap -p. We may also have to do -pn because it's a Windows box, but we'll just try it without. And we'll type bastard.hackthebox. And let's do -v for verbose. And it's already scanning, so that's perfect. We see that port 80 is open. And if you know networking, port 80 is generally HTTP. So while this does its thing, let's go ahead and open up our web browser. We'll use Firefox. And let's go to port 80. And by default, if you go to the machine, it's going to automatically open on port 80. If there's a different port that's open, then we may have to specify that. We have this 49154, which often is just RPC, but it could be maybe some Backdoor? I have no idea. Let's see. And I think, did I do something wrong here? Don't know why it's not connecting. Oh, there we go. It just took some time. All right, we are connected. And I should also say, just as kind of a disclaimer as we do this, I already went through this box myself. So I'm going to go through it somewhat fast. But I also, whenever I go through a box, I take down a bunch of notes with my thought process. So I'm going to bring you through my thought process as if we were doing this from scratch, just so you can see how I approach a machine. And I'll share some of the things I tried that didn't work and what I did do that actually did work. So the first thing I always notice when I pull up a box like this, the first thing that grabs my attention is we have a username and a password field. So one thing you can try is SQL injection. And if you just go to if you search for a SQL injection cheat sheet, we'll do GitHub. There are so many of these. And so you could do a SQL injection cheat sheet. You could actually load this into something like Burp Suite and automate some of it. So SQL injection was the first thing I did. And what I do is I take note of this. I take a screenshot of it, save it to my notes, and just say SQL injection might be possible. The other thing I notice is we can create a new account and we can request a new password. One of the reasons this can be helpful is a few things. One, you can actually do SQL injection by creating an account that might open you up to see things that you're not supposed to see. The other thing helpful about creating an account is you can sometimes use this for username enumeration. So you can wonder, is admin a valid username? And sometimes if you try to register with a valid username, it'll say this user already exists. And you could actually make a word list of valid usernames and use those in a brute force attack. So I'll just show you. This is what I did when I was going through the box. If I type admin, and we'll just type admin.com, create a new account. It says the name admin is already taken. So if you were doing like a pen test, this would be a low level finding of information disclosure, because once again, you could use this information. We could go through an entire word list of common usernames, and then we know here are valid usernames, and we can limit what we're trying to brute force to crack the password. So we know that there is an admin account that is active. The other thing I always check when I'm on a box is robots.txt. Robots.txt will sometimes say, here's what I don't want web searchers like Google to show publicly. So sometimes there's some interesting files we can check out there. And here is like death by information. So if we go to this robots.txt file, we can see the things that are allowed. But usually what is most interesting is what they disallow. And what I ended up doing is I saved all of this to my notes folder. And then I literally went through where it says disallow. I checked every single one of these. So I'll just give you an example of what I did. I would have that open and I would go to changelog.txt. That's going to error out though because I have 2 slashes. And I went to every single, well, not every single one. I went through enough until I got some good information. And here's something I spotted right away. Once again, information disclosure. It tells me the current version of Drupal, hopefully I'm saying that right, that we are running. So once again, you would note this down because you would use this to look for what things might this be vulnerable to. So we see that this is Drupal 7.54. And so one of the ways you can look up different exploits, if you open up your Kali Linux machine, you'll notice our nmap scan is done. So although I know port 80 is our attack vector, here's what I would do. If we jump back to nmap, I do -p and I specify the ports I want to look at. 49154 -A, that means throw all the scripts at it for enumeration, your IP or whatever you save to your Etsy host, and then we'll do -V, and then I like to save it to a specific folder, but I think I need to still create the folder. Let's see. Yeah, so let's make a folder for this machine, and now let's do nmap -p 80 135 49154 -A for throw all the scripts at it, our IP, -V for verbose, and then let's save it to home Kali bastard nmap.txt, and we'll just let that do its thing. I'm gonna pull this over here, but let's open back up our terminal, and if we do Searchsploit, we can type Drupal 7.54. And you'll see we have a few things that might be possible. We have these Drupal get-ins, which say anything under 7.58, it might be vulnerable to. And I did try, I'm looking at my notes, I'll tell you the ones I specifically tried. I thought this module for remote code execution might be the way in. It might still be the way in. I just couldn't get it to work properly. And that's one of the things you'll notice when it comes to capture the flags. You might find exploits that seem like they would make sense, but they just don't work. And when that happens, it can be frustrating. But for every machine that you're hacking, there's always multiple ways to get into the machine. So if one exploit or one script does not work, keep Googling, right? And that's what you'll learn about IT. For those of you in IT, you know that our jobs consist most of the time of Googling stuff. And so I went through these and I read up on them on GitHub to figure out what they did, and it wasn't working. So I kept on Googling, and I want to show you the script that I found specifically. So let's open back our web browser. And here's what I found. If you just search for this right here in Google, I'm sure it will pop up for you. So if you're following along, feel free to search for that. But I have it, the raw, pulled up right here. So this is a Python script, and it's interesting that it allows remote code execution. And if I remember right, it does it through, I think it's the forgot password area. It uses that as a means to do remote code execution on the server, which was really neat. Let me just show you guys how this works. So we're going to copy this in its entirety, and let's go ahead and go to our box. Shouldn't have any, oh, we have our nmap, and if we cat that out, it's probably still doing its thing. Oh, it's done, perfect. But let's go ahead and gedit, and let's just call this remote code execution rce.py. Let's copy our script in here, and if we read through this, it kind of says what we're going to have to do. So we have a target. Let's type help, because I think if we type help, it will give us some information. Let's go ahead and save this. And then you always have to make it executable. So let's change mod and make it executable. RCE. Make sure it is. And now if we try to run it, it says usage. So we run this. -H, I'm guessing is the host. Or it would be the target is the host. So -H is probably just going to be help. So we're going to do -C. And then we can do our command that we want to execute on the server. And then our target right there. So just as a proof of concept, let's go ahead and do that. And for our -C command, let's go ahead and type who am I? And for our target, it's going to be the bastard box. So it poisons a form. And look at that. We are int authority I user. So we're not quite int authority system, which would be root, but we do have a user account. So we can actually use this as a means of enumeration. Well, there's a few different ways you could use. You could use this to get a legit shell on the machine, which we're going to do in just a little bit. But you can also use this remote code execution to do a lot of enumeration on the machine. So one thing that we can do is let's figure out what our present working directory is. So let's go ahead and back this up, and let's just type present working directory. See where we're at. Oh, and it didn't feel like working for us. I'm trying to think if pwd works in Windows, or is that just a Linux thing? I think it's a Windows thing. So one of the things we can do is let's go ahead and go to, let's list. So if we do, we'd have to do parentheses because we're going to type a command with space in it. So if we list C users, if my memory serves me right, that should show us the users folder, and we might be able to grab that user flag right away. So let's go ahead and try that. Okay, so we see one of the users is this Demetrius, and we may possibly have access to that. And in HackTheBox, they often keep the flag on the desktop in a file called user.txt. It's kind of a standard across. So let's see if we can grab that flag. See if we have access to that. So if we do type, which if you're used to Linux, that's kind of like cat in Linux. And let's go and type Demetrius, and let's go, desktop and user.txt. I'm not sure if this will work. And it does. So look at that. If we were doing HackTheBox, which we are, but I already completed this, we can submit this and we have the user flag. Now the root flag is always going to be on the administrator, often on the desktop, and it's called root.txt. I'm doubting we have access to it, but just as proof of concept, let's try it. So we'll do administrator, desktop, and let's try root.txt. And it's not going to work because we do not have access to that with our current permissions. So what we need to do now is elevate our permissions. Well, we have remote code execution. So what we can do is run system info, and then we'll use that in our Windows exploit suggester, which is also a Python script, and it will give us some hints at what we might be able to use to elevate our permissions. So let's go back to our remote code execution, and let's look for system info. I think I typed it all right. Okay, we got our system info. Let's go ahead and copy this. Up to that point, we'll copy, and let's just open a new terminal window. Let's cd to our bastard folder. Okay, and let's gedit sysinfo.txt. Let's paste that in, and then I'm trying to think of where I have my Windows exploit suggester. I think I'm typing it right. Oh, maybe I'm not. Let's see what boxes we have on here. I think I probably have it in Arctic. Windows exploit suggester.py. So let's copy that and let's save it to our home Kali bastard folder. CD to that, and we have it there. Let's run it. First thing you have to do is run update. That's going to create the database that it's going to compare the system info to see what things are vulnerable. And now that it's updated, we'll type I, and then after I, you specify your system info. So we saved in systeminfo.txt -d for database, which is going to be that one that we just generated. And if we do that, let's see where it gets. And while that loads, I'll grab a drink. So we have a few different possible vulnerabilities. So if we read through this, just kind of draw your attention to a few things. First, it identified our Windows version. So we're attacking Windows 2008 R2, so Windows Server. We have a few updates here. We have this security update for Internet Explorer. It says it's critical. I usually don't try to attack Internet Explorer because that usually requires some type of input from a user, and we are attacking capture the flag, so that probably wouldn't work. We have this vulnerability in Windows kernel. That may be a possible good one that we could look at. We have another Internet Explorer one, so we'll skip down here. More kernels that allow privilege, elevation of privilege. And what you would do is just take these and Google them to figure out which one might be good. The one that I want to focus on is this MS10-059. And the reason for that is I recognize that one. I've used that one on another box. So when I also first did this box, I recognized this one right away. And you'll notice that as you do more boxes, there's different things that you'll notice that you remember. So one of the best ways to get good at this is you just do it. And even like in the beginning, it'll feel impossible to root a box without following a walkthrough. And then sometimes you feel guilty because you watched the walkthrough. Don't feel guilty, right? Your goal is learning. And if that means you have to watch a walkthrough and you do it alongside of the walkthrough, that's totally fine. As long as you understand what the person doing the walkthrough is actually doing. As long as you learn from it, that is what matters. So let's go ahead and try this MS10-059. Let's copy this. Let's go out to our handy dandy Googler. And let's just see what we can find. You notice I already searched for this before. I don't remember which one of these is the better one. So let's just pull them both up. Chimichurri. All right. Let's go to this one. Chimichurri. Here's what we want. This MS10-059.exe. Let's go ahead and click that. Let's download it. If you are doing this in Chrome, I've noticed Chrome will sometimes block this, so you may have to open up trusty old Firefox. And we'll keep that open to there. Let's go ahead and copy from home, Kali, downloads, it's ms10.exe. And let's copy it to our current directory. and we have it there. So now our challenge is, how do we get this on our victim machine? Well, if you remember, we have that remote code execution through that little Python script. So first we need to host a web server, and you can do that. You can do it with Python 2 or Python 3. I generally use Python 3. So if I type Python 3 -m for module, http.server, and we'll just do it on port 80 for ease of use. And now anything in this bastard folder we are serving up as a web server. So then from our victim machine, we can download the file. We just need to know what our IP is, which I think it tells me up there. Sweet, 10.10.14.27. So let's go back to our remote code execution, and let's try to use certutil. So if we use certutil, which is kind of like wget on Linux, certutil is how you can download from Windows. You can also do it with PowerShell with invoke web request. Any of them will work if you have access to PowerShell. Let's go ahead and try certutil. And I'm going off memory, so I may mess this up the first time. I believe it's certutil-url cache-f, meaning file. We're going to pull down a file. And then we'll do HTTP, and we'll do our IP, 10.10.14.27. And then we want the file name, which I believe was ms10-059.exe. And then you have to specify what you want it to save as. So if we do ms.exe, this will depend if we have writable permissions on the default folder. If we don't, we may have to navigate to that user folder and save it there, but let's just see what happens. While it does that, we can actually jump to our web server. And so far, so good. You'll see that we received a GET request for that file, and it says it completed successfully. So let's just see. Once again, kind of proof of concept. Let's make sure the file's saved. Okay, there it is, ms.exe. Now, the way you run this, and you can read it online. I'm actually trying to remember how to run it. I may have to look it up. Let's look up how to use this. Okay, so this is doing it. This is to add a user. We want to use this to get a shell. At least that's my goal. In order to do that, I'm just looking at my notes. And that's why it's so important to take good notes. I couldn't tell you how many times I jump back to my notes to figure out exactly what I am doing. Okay, so we can run the command. I'll show you the syntax. Let's go ahead and open this up. What we need to do is we're done with this web server now. At least I'm pretty sure we are. So, whoops, I meant to close it. Let's go ahead and kill that. There we go. Okay, we're gonna change this, and in faith, we're gonna call this system shell. We gotta set netcat listener. We're gonna do a reverse shell. Oh my goodness. ncat nvlp, and let's call ourselves 1337, which means lead. I realize there's some people younger than me. Like, I always thought I was young. Like, kids nowadays don't know what leet means, right? That's crazy to me, right? You probably don't even know what a rickroll is either, but we're gonna do leet because we are leet. So let's go ahead and listen on port 1337, and then we are gonna use our remote code execution, and we're gonna see if we can run this. So we'll do ms.exe, and then the way you run that specific exploit is you first specify the attacker IP. So this is the IP we want our victim machine to connect to. So that's our IP. We're gonna do 10.10.14.27, and then the port that you want to connect to, which we did 1337, and this should hopefully give us a system shell. So let's see what happens. I'm kind of scared to check. Hope it worked. Oh, it hasn't worked yet. Doo-doo. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm looking over at my notes, see if I did anything wrong. I don't think I did. ms.exe, we used our attacker IP, our attacker port. Okay, let's just check over our work. We did ms.exe. We have our IP right, 10.10.14.27, 1337. And this may be one of the things where we have to try it more than once. And you'll notice this sometimes with capture the flags, is if at first you don't succeed, then try and try again. Oh, hey, we are in. So now we have a full shell and we are into authority system. So we have rooted this box, and just to prove it, let's navigate to our C users folder, see our directory, CD to administrator, CD to desktop, dir type root.txt. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen, we have the root flag. And now I just want to once again emphasize the importance of notes. And I don't normally do this to show my notes, but I want to actually share my notes with you guys and show you kind of what my notes look like. So let me pull these over here. And you'll notice all these different boxes I've done, all these different notes I have here depending on what I'm working on. But here are kind of my walkthrough of my notes. This is in real time when I was doing this. I saw there was port 80, and I just took notes of what I was looking at. I saw that it was Drupal 7. I first looked up Drupal 7 vulnerabilities. I realized there's a valid account. And then this is when I went through that robots.txt. I went through each one of these, crossed them out as I went through them. Discovered that Drupal 7.54. I kept going through it, and then I, realized let's just try 7.54, see if we can get shell. I took down different links that I thought might be helpful, but I couldn't get it to work properly. And that's when I found that working Python script. That's when I got the user flag. I used that to pull sysinfo down, used that exploit, and got shell. So once again, notes are so important. I'll just show you some of my Windows privilege escalation notes. All these different attack vectors. When I take any type of course, when I watch any type of walkthrough, I am taking as good of notes as I can so I can repeat the process. So when I'm going through a box on my own and I get stuck, I can refer back to my notes and make sure we are good to go. But hey, hopefully you guys found this video helpful. If I can be of assistance to you in any way, shoot me a message. I would love to serve you. And once again, if you are on Discord, even if you're not, make a Discord account and join us on our Discord server. And we would love for you to join us on Monday nights, or just to contribute to that community, to share with us what you're learning, and hopefully we can share what we are learning with you. But other than that, I hope you guys have an awesome day, whatever day it is for you. Happy hacking if you are in Hack the Box or try Hack Me, and I will catch you guys next time.